With Scream 7 looming, it feels like the right moment to lay out the entire blood-soaked chronology of the Scream universe. While the films center on Sidney Prescott, the true origin of everything traces back a generation earlier to her mother. Maureen Prescott grew up in Woodsboro, California, but in 1969 she left town for Hollywood, reinventing herself under the stage name Rena Reynolds. She managed to land small roles in low-budget genre films, zombie movies, sci-fi horrors, creature features, mostly produced by John Milton. Milton was powerful, connected, and infamous. His parties were thinly veiled casting calls where young actresses were expected to make the right impression if they wanted work. Later, Milton would claim that nothing happened without consent, that things simply went too far. Whatever the truth, Maureen ended up pregnant. She gave birth to a son, Roman, and quietly put him up for adoption. While the films never explicitly state it, drafts of Scream 3 and many fans conclude Milton was Roman's father. 2 years after leaving, Maureen returned to Woodsboro, married Neil Prescott, and tried to bury her Hollywood past. Together, they had a daughter, Sidney. For a while, life appeared normal until 1995, when Roman tracked down his biological mother and tried to reconnect. Maureen refused him completely, slamming the door on that chapter of her life. Roman took that rejection personally and decided she had to die. He didn't want to commit the murder himself, so he studied her life instead. What he found was leverage. Maureen was involved in multiple affairs, including one with Hank Loomis. When Hank's wife, Nancy, discovered the affair, she left him and their son, Billy. Roman approached Billy with proof, a videotape of Maureen inviting Hank into a motel room. Suddenly, Billy had someone to blame for his family's collapse. Roman nudged him, coached him, and planted the idea of murder. Billy recruited his friend Stu Macker as an accomplice. They needed a fall guy, so they chose Cotton Weary, another one of Maureen's lovers. After Cotton spent the night with her, Billy and Stu killed Maureen and planted Cotton's bloodied jacket in his car. Cotton was arrested and convicted. Not everyone believed the story. Gale Weathers, an ambitious reporter, questioned the case and publicly challenged Sidney's testimony. Sidney said she saw Cotton leaving the house, but Gale argued she'd only seen someone wearing his jacket. Gale's book framed Cotton as innocent and portrayed Sidney as either mistaken or lying outright. A year later, in 1996, Billy Loomis, the boy who murdered Sidney's mother, was also Sidney's boyfriend. He cheated on her during that time, unknowingly fathering a child with another girl, Christina. That child, Samantha Carpenter, would later become central to the franchise. As the anniversary of Maureen Prescott's murder approached, Billy and Stu decided to escalate. They adopted a cheap Halloween costume sold everywhere, the Father Death mask, paired with a voice changer. Ghostface was born. Their first targets were Casey Becker, Stu's ex-girlfriend, and her boyfriend Steve Orth. Ghostface called Casey, taunted her with horror trivia, killed Steve when she answered incorrectly, then murdered Casey and displayed her body for her parents to find. They framed Sidney's father next. Neil Prescott was abducted, tied up, and hidden at Stu's house while Billy and Stu used his cloned phone to make the Ghostface calls. At school, panic spread. Sidney received her first Ghostface call and barely survived an attack in her bedroom. Billy conveniently appeared afterward, cell phone in hand, suspicious enough for police to arrest him. He was released when phone records proved he didn't make the calls. As Woodsboro shut down, Gale returned, clashing immediately with both Sidney and Deputy Dewey Riley. The killings continued. Principal Himbry was murdered, and a party was thrown at Stu's house despite a curfew. There, Billy, wearing the Ghostface costume, killed Tatum Riley, Dewey's sister, in the garage by crushing her in the pet door. Upstairs, Sidney slept with Billy, unknowingly breaking Randy Meeks's first rule of horror survival. The finale unfolded quickly. Neil's car was found nearby, making him the prime suspect. Stu pretended to kill Billy as part of the plan, and the killers revealed themselves. They explained everything. Maureen, Cotton, Neil, the framing, the phones, the murders. They stabbed each other to sell the illusion of surviving victims, but Sidney turned the tables, using their own voice changer against them. Stu died when a TV crushed his head. Billy was shot, got back up for one final scare, and was executed with a bullet to the head. Dewey survived. Gale got her story. Woodsboro burned into horror history. In the aftermath, Gale wrote The Woodsboro Murders, which inspired the in-universe movie Stab. A year later, Scream 2 followed Sidney to Windsor College. New Ghostface murders began, mirroring the original killings. The mastermind was Nancy Loomis, Billy's mother, operating under the alias Debbie Salt. She recruited film student Mickey Altieri, who wanted to be caught and blame horror movies in court. Together, they killed students, including Randy Meeks, whose death devastated fans and characters alike. Nancy's goal was simple: revenge on Sidney. Mickey's was notoriety. In the final act, Mickey killed Sidney's boyfriend, Derek. Nancy killed Mickey to take sole credit. Cotton Weary shot Nancy after Sidney promised him a Diane Sawyer interview. Mickey got one last scare and was executed. Sidney shot Nancy in the head to be sure. Dewey and Gale reunited once again. Afterward, Sidney disappeared into hiding. Gale wrote another book. Cotton achieved fame and landed a talk show. Stab 3 entered production. this time fictional, and was directed by Roman Bridger, Maureen Prescott's abandoned son. Roman used advanced voice cloning tech to kill cast members in the order their characters died in the script, leaving photos of Maureen at each crime scene. His goal was to draw Sidney out and frame her as the killer. Sidney returned. Roman revealed himself as her half-brother, exposed Maureen's Hollywood past, and killed John Milton. Wearing a bulletproof vest, Roman survived gunshots until Dewey finally shot him in the head. Roman became the franchise's first and only solo killer. Sidney, Gale, and Dewey survived. Gale and Dewey married. Sidney began healing. Years later, Sidney's cousin Jill Roberts decided she wanted Sidney's fame. During the 15th anniversary of the Woodsboro murders, Jill and Charlie Walker staged a remake killing spree. Jill planned to kill everyone, including Charlie, and live as the sole survivor. She nearly succeeded, brutally injuring herself to sell the story. But Sidney survived again. Jill was killed in the hospital by defibrillator pads to the head. 11 years passed. In Scream 2022, new killers emerged. Richie Kirsch and Amber Freeman, toxic stab fans furious about the franchise's direction. They targeted Samantha Carpenter, Billy Loomis's daughter, intending to frame her as the killer and restore the series. They murdered friends, lured survivors to Stu Macher's house, and recreated the original finale. Dewey was killed trying to finish Ghostface for good. In the end, Samantha embraced her violent instincts, killing Richie. Amber was shot in the head by Tara. Sidney and Gale survived again. A year later in Scream 6, revenge followed. Richie's father, Detective Wayne Bailey, partnered with his other children, Quinn and Ethan. They framed Samantha, spread conspiracy theories online, and staged murders across New York City while using relics from past Ghostfaces. They even killed copycat killers who tried to steal their revenge. Gale was nearly killed. Mindy was stabbed again and survived again. Chad was stabbed repeatedly and survived again. The final showdown took place in a Ghostface shrine filled with masks, weapons, and history. Bailey revealed everything. Samantha donned the mask, used Billy's knife, and slaughtered him. Ethan and Quinn were killed. Samantha ultimately rejected her father's legacy, leaving the mask behind, and that's where things stand. 30 years of murders, secrets, revenge cycles, fame, fandom, and trauma. Each generation trying to rewrite the story, and each one bleeding for it. With Scream 7 approaching, the question isn't whether Ghostface will return. It's who still has something left to scream about.